Greetings! So I recently played 2 games against a pro FIFA player, and today I want to share some of my thoughts after looking back at those 2 games with a level head. And as you can see on the screen, this is my team that I'm rocking with, and this is my opponent's team. So first things first, I'll showcase the highlights of the 2 games, and then after we look at the highlights, I want to draw up the main conclusions that I came up with for the day, the main lessons, if you will. So game 1, first highlight comes from a corner kick. My opponent has the ball. He starts wiggling with Walker, gets it into Vieira. Obviously, I'm a little bit drunk from his ISO play, which is why I'm 1 step behind, and he ends up finding the half a yard with R9. Then shortly thereafter, we are on the wing with Quadrado, work it back. He's trying to put pressure on us with a lot of offside traps, so we kind of have to reset. We work it back into Mendy, Blanc, a lot of first-time passes, a lot of gaps open. I didn't see the obvious pass to Ronaldo. I was actually looking more at George Best, but no issues there. A beautiful, beautiful goal, at least in my opinion. So we get the score tied at 1-1. Then, careless mistake from us on our build-up. We just gift him the ball for no reason. Should have checked the mini-map. But again, the ISO play begins, and when it's R9 against your center back with a pro player and his dribbling abilities, he's going to look for the ISO play. Very tough to deal with. 2-1 now. We're with Best. Nothing of interest in the middle. Work it back. Shout out to anyone who knows my basketball video. We find the basketball pass into Ronaldo, feeding the basketball run, coming back in from the offsides. Then again, the ISO play. A lot of ISO play. Common theme today. He trying to gets me a little bit drunk over here with the step overs. Eventually, he finds the pass to R9, which is why a lot of times I say, add segment, press EA. I'm always a step behind. Anyways, 82nd minute, we get a corner to make it 3-3, and naturally, we miss it. So game 2 begins, and look at that, another penalty for us. We change our pancake taker, so we go middle, he goes left, he still saves it. It's incredible. It's honestly incredible. Like, I went middle knowing he would think I would go to the side. But nonetheless, we get the ball back. Again, he puts pressure on us with some offside traps. I get debated, pass into Laurent Blanc, who was offside. And the irony is that if you smell it, you know you're probably right. It's coming. The goal is coming. Right after we miss a pen when he guessed wrong, and he still gets the save. Gets the ball into Ronaldo. Bridge. Trying to get that ISO, phases through the leg of my defender. His R9 comes back into an onside position. Mine doesn't. My center back doesn't, and it is what it is. Here, goal number 2. We steal the ball, and I promise you, I did not do that dribble. Like, I don't know how my player went backwards. I wasn't going backwards, but nonetheless, off of that, the infamous through ball, he's in, makes it 2-0. Here, in our attack, we have the ball. Work it around, Best, Atal, get a combination play, he doesn't track it. The sweat to be safe. To be fair, I almost risked having it blocked. 2-1, 80th minute here, into Atal, he's through on net. The pass of nightmares comes out, and once again, you miss your chance, and guess what happens after that? You probably concede. Bit of a 180, not really 180, almost like 160 degree pass from Ronaldo. Gets it into R9 eventually. ISO play. Causing me to be a little bit drunk, and then onside is CR7 thanks to my fullback who kept him on side. The first lesson or observation is a very obvious one, but I still think it's worth mentioning and talking about because that second game was actually crazy. The number of events that had to go right for some of my opponent's goals to happen was, and still are to me, insane. From a missed penalty and balls/players phasing through my defender in a matter of moments in the first goal, to the second goal where my player goes berserk in an interception, and off of losing it, where I don't know how that even happened, straight back it goes to him and he plays the infamous FIFA 21 through ball. To the last one, which is arguably the most shocking one to me, where I'm literally through a net. It's me, my other teammate, and the opponent's goalie, and my cross happens to go just ever so slightly behind the player, so he doesn't get it. And the cherry on top is that by the time he gets to my half, the only reason he scores and is onside is because the AI of my fullback ended up covering a run to an extent that was honestly uncalled for. Like, he's only onside because of a player I had no control over. Everyone I was selecting was in a position that would have put his Cristiano Ronaldo offside. And obviously off of that, he ends up scoring. Now, I know a lot of people like to do the whole devil's advocate thing, and I will do that myself in this video. But for this chance, that is not it, man. That's not the approach. It shouldn't be like that. I get the whole concept of pressing the right type of pass in the right situation, but we can't venture into that conversation for such an obvious chance. Because for one, that's not really a fair assessment. How many times do X passes or normal ground passes turn into triangle passes, aka through passes, just because the game feels like making that happen? What about there? The wrong button was pressed, but the right outcome happened. Why not in this scenario? Secondly, this is such an obvious pass that most combos, in my opinion, should work. Whether you want to go for square, triangle, or X, I think in this scenario, you can't be meticulous about you have to press the right button for the right animation to happen here. It's insane. Like, you should be able to do pretty much anything and score, at least if you're trying to sweat it. The most important point is, can you really, truly believe and promise me that if I press the ground pass button or the triangle pass button here, that it would have worked as opposed to what I ended up doing, which was the R1 square pass? How do you know that this wasn't happen? This previously happened and has happened to me multiple times. So at least looking at this clip that shows a similar, if not identical scenario and what happened when I didn't press square, you should be able to understand that the previous trauma and so lesson that I learned in previous games should explain as to why I decided to go with the square or the R1 square pass, because I was trying to avoid something that I had previously experienced. But how can you learn from the past in a game which isn't consistent? But nonetheless, we move because there are still plenty of chances where I could have done a lot better. Now, across these two games, I actually had a lot of really interesting counters, and looking back, I wish I would have played them a little bit differently. Obviously, everyone's a genius in hindsight, but for example, over here, when we get the ball into our blank, obviously we have a very good position. Ronaldo's in, but what I end up doing is taking a touch, and by then, my Ronaldo is offside. So in hindsight, what should I look in these situations? Do I risk the first time lob through ball? I mean, to me, that's the only option. However, it's pretty hard, as in this game, they tend to levitate and gravitate towards the keeper, and they don't really ever land in a place where the offensive player is rewarded, especially in the final third. From long range, maybe it's different, but this close, it's already more complicated. But as you can see, as we play it out, he ends up being offside. Now, in this situation is one of those where the overlap becomes very interesting, and as we get the ball to Joao Felix, I can tell you right now that I did end up passing to my winger in best, but naturally the ball ended up going to Ronaldo instead. So what I should have done here is either A, take a touch and then pass, but again, it's very easy to take that option and then end up being too late because the pass takes too long, the touch is too heavy, and so you squander the opportunity. So again, this begs the question, is this a lob through ball, first time lob through ball opportunity? On paper, yes, but in practice, it's very hard to pull those off. But nonetheless, I will be keeping my eye out for those and seeing if I can make those work more successfully. Now, this particular chance I really like a lot because I have a lot to learn from it. So here we have the ball with best, and in this specific freeze frame, our best, despite the slanted view, is putting our Ronaldo onside and the ball is ahead. So this is the moment we should have passed. We should have loaded up the pass and made sure that the first touch of best was a pass. Naturally, we have the risk that the same pass that we showed on earlier could have happened and then the through ball would have been glitched or whatever. But the only opportunity to pass is in this specific moment. What I ended up doing actually is taking a touch and never passing because I was afraid of the offside, which was the right call after the touch, but it wasn't the right call in the play. In the play, I should have pressed the pass button as my first touch, and then I would have been onside, right? But me being scarred with offsides in this game, I'm kind of thinking, all right, I'm not going to pass first time, I'm going to take a touch. So we ended up squandering the opportunity. So, you know, it was the right call in the sense that had I pressed pass after the touch, it would have been too late and my Ronaldo would have been offside. But again, keep this in mind for these opportunities, and I feel like just going for the pass is the best play. Similar one here. This is one where in hindsight I feel like I should have gone for the first time pass. Now this is one of those where the pass should be the right one because, you know, there are two people in the middle, but they are in a tough situation. And so what should we be doing here? Is it a square pass? I don't know. The R1 square might not magnetize as well as it should be. The triangle pass might get accepted. The L1 triangle pass could be a shout, but again, there's no guarantee that it won't levitate magically towards the keeper. One thing's for sure though, as I ended up taking a touch, I lost the opportunity. One of my runners actually stops, and the only one that keeps going is Ronaldo, but he's too far behind for the R1 square to work. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. What kind of passes would work in this specific scenario as a first time, obviously keeping in mind that there's more error on those. But again, the reason why I'm not ever sure is because sometimes you do an L1 triangle and it doesn't work and it's overhit, and then when it does work and it's not overhit and you get to it, maybe your player does a touch like that, and you know, it's just tough, man. There's a lot of these situations that are really nice and dangerous, but they don't work, which is why you see a lot of players do a lot of ISO play. Speaking of ISO, the most important takeaway and just thing that I took out of this game, but not only this game, but any game, be it in qualifiers or in weekend league against a certain caliber of player, be it a pro or a sweat or an elite level player. Obviously, this is bar a few exceptions. There still are top tier players who will play football. I, for one, you know, don't indulge in these sort of tactics that much. I still like to go for the passing plays, even if it's a little harder and not as efficient. But the point is that these people love ISO, and if you've seen my basketball video, you'll know what I mean. If not, I refer to ISO when pros and these types of players completely disregard passing plays and through balls and this and that, and all their focus is getting the ball into one of their strikers, which is where most of their coins are invested, either into a Cristiano Ronaldo or an R9. And from that point on, once they get the ball into their R9 or whatever, they just focus on crafting their chances by infinitely wiggling, not really passing the ball, just walking around, doing step overs, and testing your patience to see if you can, you know, lose your patience and drag your defenders out to craft a chance, and they get their little half a yard and they'll shoot, you know? Now for this one, I really struggle, and for the life of me, I still don't know how EA allows for FIFA to be out in the public hands without second man press being a decent feature, because at that point, if that was there, we could constantly cut passing lanes and also press in and out of the ball holder. But until then, this whole situation will definitely remain the meta, very efficient situation for pro players. Now, I often find myself in these cases in no man's land, and it's hard to decide how much to pressure the ball holder and overcommit and how much to stay passive. Because if you overcommit too much and you're too aggressive, yeah, you know, you might choke the opponent and get the ball off of him, but you also might have moments where even if you get a tackle in, they will phase through you, because after all, they have top tier strikers who have the RNG that allows that to be an option and possibility. Alternatively, if you are too passive and you just focus on not creating gaps, you might never touch the ball again. It becomes a patience game, and I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that's a skillful situation. Some of these players will keep going around in semicircles forever, and I have had games where I decided, let's see if it works to be passive, and I have about, you know, 10% possession. It's crazy, man. But all around, definitely tough situations. Let me know what you guys think about these and what the, you know, best course of action is. But without making this video too long, I'm going to call it there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for recent support, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.